Welcome to the Self Storage Show, where I have conversations with my industry friends, talk with owners and vendors, and share tales about my management company, 3 Mile Storage. Let's go. Hey everyone, so I just finished putting together this new book, 3 Mile Storage Management, 3 Zones of Excellence. This is our framework for success in self-storage. Want a free copy? Okay, here's the deal. Book a strategy session with me. Together we're going to walk your business through the 3 Zones of Excellence framework. And I've done countless sessions like these over the years with many self-storage owners. I guarantee you that together, we're going to reveal some ways to increase your leads, rentals, and revenue. So go to 3milestorage.com and book your time today. Hi everyone, this is Jim Ross with the Self Storage Show. I'm going to continue our interview series here. Got John Lindsey with me, co-founder and president of the Lindsey Self Storage Group. What's going on, John?
What's up, buddy? How are you today? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you're able to make it between the long night of the new baby stuff going on. Yep. So I appreciate it.
I think a lot of your listeners will certainly appreciate what a full night's sleep will do for you with a 12-week-old. So we're swimming through it right now. We'll be there soon enough, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can sympathize, but I'm serious. You'll miss these days. It goes by so quick.
I know. That's where we're trying to soak it all up. So
I appreciate it every day. Well, thanks for making on, man. For those that don't know, or it looks like you're an incognito with the mask and stuff going on with the hat and everything. So we'll put the face to the name. Give us all a rundown of John's history, and we'll get into it here.
Yeah, for those who've not heard me speak or met me before, my name is John Lindsey, co-founder and president of Lindsey Self Storage Group. My family's been in the storage business since 1969. My dad built facilities all across the U.S. My brother and I grew up pouring concrete and said one day, Dad, we don't want to pour concrete anymore. So in 2012, we launched Lindsey Self Storage Group. We now do brokerage all over the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia. So that's been our focus for the past, I guess, almost 12 years now. And we absolutely love it and continue to grow our exposure each and every day.
Brokerage worldwide? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we've done everywhere from Marseille, France to Utrecht, Netherlands. The past couple months, we've done deals in Vietnam, Mexico. So, from Waxahachie, Texas to Ho Chi Minh, we've kind of got our hands in everything. We love it.
That's cool. Okay, you open yourself up to a part 2 because I want to hear about some of these different how to do it self-storage. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. We love it.
Man, your dad was doing this in the 60s?
69, Dallas, Texas, built his first site. So definitely one of the earlier guys in the game. So it's cool. I still see guys at trade shows that worked with my dad on projects in the 80s or late 70s. And it's really fun for me to come full circle. And like just last week, I was doing a site visit with Terry Campbell. And he started with Betco in 96, I think, or 97. My dad was one of his first clients. And so it's really cool to see that come full circle. And I've obviously known I guess Terry's known me since I was a little kid, and I've known Terry my whole life. So it's cool to kind of come full circle on that. And now introducing my daughter as a 3rd generation storage. She's done her first site visit recently. So she got toted around in the car seat. So we have photographic evidence that she was there at not even 12 weeks of age. So
that's awesome. And people said it got self-storage in the the You got self-storage in the blood, man.
Whether you like it or not at this point, it is in the bloodline. So
that's awesome. Well, that's why I wanted to have you come on too, because again, you obviously live, eat, and breathe self-storage, whether you like it or not, and you've seen all the highs and the lows and all the craziness going on. So I figure right now, I mean, I just got back from the SSA show. It kind of seemed like people are just like in a funk. I'm like, what's going on? And kind of seemed like the state of the industry kind of I got slapped in the face. I figured you could kind of talk a little bit about that.
We've come off this relative high, and I think that's like there feels like there's this huge amount of doom and gloom in the space. When you compare to where we are now in like the pre-COVID era, we're actually still in like a relatively really good spot. We're just coming off this ridiculous boom and bust of COVID. And again, I don't see us having this, crash and burn like we did after 2008. I mean, everything's still doing fine. There's going to be this soft landing, and we're seeing some pricing softening in some markets, occupancy maybe a little stagnant, but The only, I guess, real hiccup that we've seen through this is all circled around debt. Whether you have floating debt for an acquisition or you tie up floating debt for construction, you might be in a difficult position right now or coming up on one, because how long can you sustain this new debt environment? But also to the acquisition side, a number of buyers, when they raised capital or put their groups together, they were anticipating being able to do 4% debt at 75% leverage, in perpetuity. And that just doesn't exist anymore. So we're seeing just this big shift in the market right now. I will say the tone for our team and what we've discussed is we've been very pleasantly surprised with this year. We also were expecting a little bit more of that doom and gloom mentality. We thought there was a real slowdown, but we have a couple groups that have done over 50 transactions this year. We have been very active. We've been, again, pleasantly surprised with the pace of volume. And again, although it looks different to 21 and 20, like to 2019 and 2018, it's still a pretty good year. So, I don't want people to get hung up and think that, oh my God, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, because it's not. It's just we're settling back down to what was the pre-COVID norm,
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. That's why I'm trying to have more and more of these conversations with people, just like on your side of the thing with storage, to talk about this, because again, I go back to SSA and talking with some of these owners, kind of same thing, like doom and gloom, like, dude, we're just kind of back to normal. It's like we've been through this. That was for the last couple of years. Throw that away. That was just an anomaly. That was just nutty. That's crazy. We're just back to the way things used to be. And
I think we're going to see a lot of shakeout over these next couple of years. I think we're just, there were, a lot of people that flew into storage from other sectors and tried to catch this updraft we were seeing. And, I've also seen a lot of people recently leave the sector. I've seen a lot of acquisition teams start to kind of dissipate. And I've seen a lot of just kind of this shakedown of the space. And again, it's just us resettling into what was before COVID. And, again, my dad had seen an ungodly amount of cycles from saving loans crisis to .com to 08. And we had always talked about, when COVID hit before he passed away last year, unrelated to COVID, we were just talking about kind of like, look, this is just another one of those decade cycles. It happens. And you need to just prepare for, what is to come afterwards. And again, storage, as you've said multiple times, I know we've talked about, is a generational wealth tool, and people need to be more conservative in the way they approach it, in my opinion. And I think now we're seeing the people who maybe got a little over their skis with certain types of debt structures, or overbuilding in certain markets, or overbuilding for their first deal, the rubber's meeting the road. And I think there is going to be a little bit of, headwind for some of those groups in the next year. But then again, that provides opportunity for some of the groups that have been around forever. So it's going to shake out at the end of the day.
Well, cream's going to rise to the top here with this.
That's exactly right. So.
I was looking at, I was just talking to a dude a couple of days ago that was kind of in that situation. Not to say he was trying to get in just for the fast money, but he was trying to get into it for the fast money. And now he's kind of like caught. And it's like, well, dude.
But I think the difference is we've had so many groups preparing for this downside of COVID. We had groups that went out and raised money specifically for this tailwind. And versus in 08, no one knew that was coming. No one really predicted that and said, oh, I'm going to save up cash because I'm going to go buy all these sites. So now we have a number of acquisition groups and capital groups that would said, hey, we've raised this bucket of money specifically to either, recap developers or acquisition groups that may be a little improperly structured with their debt, or we raise capital to buy those deals specifically where, it's either like, hey, you can sell to us or you can let it go back to the bank. So I think this time, again, that's that catch net for this. And that's why the industry is not going to see this huge downslope, because for the first time, there are people poised to take advantage of these opportunities. Whereas in 10, 11, 12, that catch net didn't exist. And there was barely anyone doing deals. I remember in 2012, I was putting out 10, 11, 12 cap listings, and they'd sit for 4, 5, 6 months. No one wanted to
Are you serious?
markets. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's
I tell people I had a deal
wow.
in North Carolina, big site, like 155,000 square feet.
Yeah.
We had it listed for like an 11 cap on the market for a year.
Oh my
No
God.
one wanted it. Buyer came back. They finally made an offer. They put 10% down. Owner carried the note for the balance. They bought it for like just over 3 million, I think. It transacted it just a couple years ago. Again, we sold it for them for 9.7 million.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
I mean, you know, again, a deal that in today's day and age would be gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I couldn't have begged any harder for someone to buy it in 2012, 2013. So it's just kind of wild to see the difference of, again, the other side of this financial market we're seeing now.
It's interesting and kind of fun to watch. And then more and more of these conversations I'm having and getting it out there. It's one of the things where it's not doom and gloom. There's opportunities too. I think a lot of people have to do a lot more activity, frankly, to find some of these things and make them pencil out than maybe they had to in the past.
Yeah.
I got to do a lot of wheels in motion. Just got to, consistently getting things out there and kind of
It's not just the slap it up and they will come kind of 20% year over year rate increases and stuff like that. And what I think is interesting though is, to piggyback that kind of doom and gloom mentality, we have like a number of groups we've worked with that, for instance, let's say an owner did get over their skis with their debt, instead of just, buying them out or saying like, hey, we'll wait till this goes to the bank. They will, go through this restructuring of the deal, pay off the debt, let the owner stay in so they still get to see this eventual upside. It may just take a little longer and, they're not necessarily in the driver's seat anymore. So it's like, I think the cool thing about storage is that there's still this like really tight-knit community. It's like, hey, we want you to succeed, but in order to do so, like, we're going to have to change the way you do things. And I think that's really rare. We don't see capital groups in other industries, I think, being so much of a rising tide raises all ships mentality.
Yeah.
They're more of just like, hey, we'd rather just wait till it goes to the bank and we'll take it out. Whereas now I think there's this like, hey, we still see this value created. We want to help you get to this next stage of your project. We're just gonna have to restructure a couple things to get there. So I think it's cool to still see that. As big as this industry's gotten, it's not this, bloodbath. Like everyone still knows everyone, and it's very intertwined and interconnected. And I've been shocked again and again how small the space is. Like every time I talk to an owner, they're just,
I always say storage is like 2 degrees of separation. It's seriously
crazy. It's wild. And I'm sure you, like me, I meet people outside of the space all the time. They're like, oh, I have a friend, he owns stores in Seattle, and I'm like, oh, is it ABC? And they're like, oh yeah, him? And I'm like, yeah, I actually do. Like it's and I think that's what's been so great about this industry. And again, I think what attracts so many people to the space is how resilient it is and how well the industry has kind of upheld itself through these times. And I think that's what will continue to make it, really survive long term and thrive on top of that. So yeah, so it's just been an interesting ride the past couple of years. And I think, getting the tone out of like, hey, it's okay. Get your right debt in, get your right capital partners in, it's time to good time to buckle down and make sure you're reviewing your expenses, your marketing, see what new competition is being built in your market, like just kind of be a little more cognizant of what's going on and prepare for these next couple of years. Again, Fed is kind of finally looks like pausing efforts to continue to raise our debt, which is long overdue in my opinion. But the problem is if it doesn't go down, if it just holds here even for another year, like we're still in the same boat. It's not as bad as it could have been, but still it's not great. So especially for people who are in a floating debt position, like it's probably still a lot higher than they anticipated. So it's like, what can you do in the interim to mitigate that? And how can you put yourself in a position to weather this storm and get through to the other side?
Yep. That's where it comes down to. I mean, people like me doing, management and all that, because that's what we're focused on is the day-to-day operations and the marketing and the expenses and getting all that just dialed in. Because you got to be on top of your game for that, especially now.
And that's what, and I hope people take advantage of your offer to look at what they're doing, Jim, because I think a lot of people, when times are good, they're very willy-nilly about, expenses, and where they're like, oh yeah, we'll do this and we'll buy that and we'll sponsor this and we'll do that. Well, it's like, what's the real ROI on that for you and your site? And I think it takes someone like you to sit down with them and just say, look, like, let's really look at what you're doing here. And is this directly benefiting your property? And what could we be investing in doing better to ensure that you not only, again, survive this time, but succeed and possibly thrive through this environment until we get to a point where debt's coming down and we see rates going back up. And I think that's just kind of what we're going to see, because in 2020, 21, like, every package we saw come out was like, oh yeah, 10%, 20% year-over-year revenue growth for 5 years. Well, a lot of markets we're looking at now are down or stagnant, and definitely not doing 10%. So it's a very different time than 21. And I can only imagine, a group near the space that bought a lease-up deal that was thinking it was just going to continue to grow in perpetuity, and then there's 4 new competitors built, and they're all bleeding trying to capture the same tenant base. And it's just, we're going to see some of that, and it's unfortunate, but again, there's ways to bring themselves out of it or survive it, with groups like yourself, or restructure if they need to. So every situation like this creates an opportunity, so just be curious to see how people handle it.
I remember seeing a few of those pro formas come across my desk of just like this. I'm like, let's play the what if game. And they always hit the what if game. I'm like, let's just play the what if game. Like, okay, new competitor, and then the rates don't go this high. What if? And of course, it would just fall apart in 2 seconds. It's like, let's have a reality check. And that's kind of what we're at right now. I think this is reality. We're having a reality check and having these conversations, and we'll get through it. It's not doom and gloom. It's all good.
Well, just I remind people, be thankful. Mexico's interest rates are like 35 or 36% right now. So just be thankful that we have what we have stateside. It's tough market in some places, and so it's same, you go down to Latin America, like Brazil and stuff like that. You're just paying through the nose for debt. So although it's not great, I think especially as a millennial, I obviously was not alive during Carter. I was very young during savings and loan. So I've never seen the teens, interest rates. So, I think for younger people in the space, even pre 08, we just weren't really in the industry much at that time. So it's the first time we've seen like a hiccup really with debt. But historically, again, we're in a very good position relative to where we could be. So it's like, hey, let's calm down. The world's not ending. I think we all see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's all good.
So I'm much more optimistic about where we're going next year than when you would have asked me back in like January or February of this year.
Nice.
I feel like everyone's starting to digest this new norm and settle into this new rhythm. And I think people are now saying, okay, if this is the new norm, how are deals penciling? How are we underwriting? How are offers coming through? How are we presenting them? What does this look like on a 3, 5, 7 year hold versus just, blue sky and perpetuity for 7 years? So I'm excited about what is to come. And I think next year we'll see a heavier volume of transactions than we did this year.
Sweet. That'll be interesting. Fun.
Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, it's when it comes to transactions, if people want to reach out to you, get more information, how do they reach out to you?
Yep. You can call me at any time. My cell phone, 919-381-7799. You can also go to lindseyselfstoragegroup.com or feel free to email me at any time, john@lindseyselfstoragegroup.com. We'd love to help you in any way. And Jim, as always, thanks for having me, and looking forward to being on the show next time.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, John. Take care. Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder. Do you want to level up your storage game? Visit theselfstorageshow.com. Grab some high-value freebies, check out top vendor spotlights, and stay in the loop with our newsletter. Do you want to chat about becoming a client with 3 Mile Storage Management? All the info's there. Plus, if you've got a story to share, we're listening. Everything you need is at theselfstorageshow.com.